Ryan Langston didn't expect holding a door open at a coffee shop would flip his life upside down, but then again, nothing in his life had gone the way he expected lately. "Thank you," said a woman, stepping through the door with a faint smile, her heels clicking against the tile floor. Ryan just nodded, tightening his grip on his son's small hand. "No problem. Daddy, can I get the chocolate muffin?" asked Gabriel, tugging on his arm. Ryan crouched down, brushing a hand over Gabriel's curls. "We'll see what's left, buddy." He didn't notice the woman looking back at him. She had noticed the fray on his jacket sleeve, the way his boots had been re-glued at the sole. But more than that, she noticed how he placed his son between himself and the counter, his body instinctively protective. How he smiled at the cashier even when he counted out coins for a single muffin and a small coffee. She couldn't explain why she stood there watching him, but she did. "Get whatever you want," Ryan told his son. "But just one." Gabriel reached for the muffin. Ryan pulled out a few crumpled bills. "I've got it," said a smooth voice behind him. He turned. The woman from the door stood there, holding out a black credit card. "My treat," Ryan blinked. "That's really kind of you, but we're okay. I insist," she said, giving Gabriel a quick wink. "Chocolate muffin, right?" Gabriel beamed. "Yes, please." Ryan hesitated, then gave a short nod. "Thank you." She paid quickly, then turned to leave. "Wait, what's your name?" Ryan asked, shifting Gabriel to his other hand. She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes bright. "Raya Zimmerman." Raya didn't normally go to that part of the city, but her driver was out sick, and she'd insisted on walking that morning. She was used to high rises, gallery launches, and catered lunches. She wasn't used to cracked sidewalks and dollar stores. But something about the man with the tired eyes and gentle voice stuck with her. Later, back at her penthouse, she couldn't shake the image of him crouched beside his son, making sure the boy got his muffin first. She sat on the edge of her cream leather sofa, staring at her untouched green juice. After a moment, she stood and walked to her office, grabbed a notepad, and scribbled down a single line. "Find out who he is." Ryan worked construction when he could get it. He'd been laid off 2 months ago. His ex walked out on them 3 years back, leaving him with a toddler and a ring of medical bills. Every day was about getting by. Every morning was a war with the mirror. He didn't expect to see Raya again. But 3 days later, she walked into the community center where he was painting the old gym walls for extra cash. He nearly dropped his roller. "You again," she smiled. "Me again. You stalking me, maybe," she said. "Or maybe I have a proposition." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Lady, I can't take your money." "I don't want to hand you anything," she said. "But I am opening a new youth arts program downtown. I need someone to help with the renovations, someone I can trust." His expression hardened. "Why me?" "Because you held the door. Because you didn't let your pride stop your kid from getting a muffin. Because I saw the way he looks at you, like you hung the stars." Ryan glanced down at his paint-splattered boots. "You don't know me." "I'd like to," she said. The next week, Ryan started working on the arts center. Raya visited often. At first, they talked about wall colors and flooring, then about Gabriel's favorite books, then about her late father who taught her how to run a business, then about how Ryan hadn't taken a real day off in years. "Why do you care?" he asked one afternoon, sitting beside her on the unfinished front steps. Raya shrugged. "I don't know, maybe because no one ever looked at me the way you looked at him." Ryan looked out toward the street. "He's everything. I can tell." He turned to her. "You don't seem like someone who usually makes time for guys like me," she smiled. "Maybe I'm not." He gave a dry laugh. "Then why are you here?" She leaned in slightly. "Maybe because I like the way you look at people." He didn't kiss her that day. But he thought about it for hours after she left. Gabriel adored her. Every time she visited, he ran to her like she was made of sunshine. She brought him books, a tiny paint set, even a pair of brand new sneakers that just happened to be lying around. Ryan tried to refuse. "You don't have to do all this," he said one evening as they stood beside her sleek black car. "I know," she replied softly. He looked at her. "You're not just some woman with a kind heart, are you?" She tilted her head. "What do you think I am?" "I think you're someone with a driver, a black card, and enough pull to get a youth center greenlit in a week." She gave him a small, almost shy smile. "I'm a millionaire, Ryan. Technically, a multi-millionaire." He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he muttered, "Figures." She stepped closer. "Does it change how you see me?" He looked at her, really looked at her bare face, freckles, the way she chewed her lower lip when nervous. "No," he said, "but it changes how you see me, doesn't it?" There was something raw in his voice. Something vulnerable. She reached out, gently touching his arm. "It doesn't, I swear it doesn't," but he pulled back. "This, whatever this is, it's not a game I know how to play." And with that, he walked away, leaving her standing on the curb alone, but that wasn't the end, not even close. Ryan didn't expect her to show up again, not after he walked away from her like that. But 3 days later, just as he was finishing the electrical work in one of the back rooms of the youth center, he heard a voice behind him. "You left your tape measure in the hallway." He turned, wiping his hands on his jeans. Raya was standing there in a navy blouse and high-waisted trousers, holding out the tape measure like it was a peace offering. He took it with a nod. "Thanks, I didn't come just to return that. I figured." She looked at the exposed beams above them. "You've done a lot. It's starting to feel like something real." Ryan leaned against the doorway. "It will be," Raya hesitated. "I wasn't trying to insult you the other day. I just didn't want to lie about who I am." "You didn't lie," Ryan said. "You just forgot to mention the $1,000,000 view." She stepped closer, her shoes quiet against the concrete. "I didn't want that to be the first thing you knew about me." He studied her face. "So what did you want me to know? That I'm not here out of pity or curiosity. I'm here because I see something in you I haven't seen in anyone in a long time." Ryan didn't answer right away. He looked past her, toward the front of the center where Gabriel was helping one of the volunteers organize donated books. The boy didn't even glance back. He was too busy alphabetizing. "I've made a mess of a lot of things," Ryan said quietly. "I don't have room for things that don't last." "Neither do I," Raya replied. He met her eyes then, something shifting between them. "You're not going to walk away easily, are you?" "That depends," she said. "Are you going to let me stay?" That night, after Gabriel had fallen asleep on the pull-out couch in their one-bedroom apartment, Ryan stepped out onto the fire escape and pulled out the crumpled business card Raya had slipped into his jacket pocket. It wasn't embossed. It wasn't flashy. Just a name, a number, and a single line beneath. Founder, Blue Horizon Initiatives. He hadn't Googled her. He didn't want to see headlines or photos from banquets. He didn't want to know how many zeros were in her bank account. All he wanted to know was if the look in her eyes that afternoon was real. 2 weeks passed. Raya kept showing up. She brought used art supplies from her friend's gallery. She listened while Gabriel explained his science project. She didn't flinch when Ryan's truck wouldn't start, and he had to take the subway 3 hours across town with paint-stained hands. One night, while they were laying down floorboards in the main hall, the power flickered and went out. Ryan lit a flashlight and handed it to her. "You afraid of the dark?" he asked. "No," she said, crouching beside him. "But I'm not great at using a nail gun by candlelight." They laughed real, full laughter, and Ryan realized it had been months since he'd heard his own voice sound like that. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked, his tone quieter now. She leaned back on her heels. "Because I was raised to believe money means nothing if you're the only one who benefits from it." He studied her again, the way her eyes didn't shift away. "I thought people like you went to ribbon cuttings and left the dirty work to someone else." "I did," she said. "For a long time, then I realized I hated who that made me." He handed her another plank. "You're hard to read, you know that," she smiled. "Good." Gabriel started calling her Miss Raya. Then one afternoon, "Can Miss Raya come to my school play?" Ryan hesitated. But when Gabriel added, "She's the only one who's never missed a promise," he found himself saying yes. She arrived 10 minutes early in jeans and sneakers, her hair pulled back, holding 2 chocolate chip cookies wrapped in a napkin. "He told me he liked these," she said. Ryan stared at her, unsure what to say. "You don't have to thank me," she added. "Just save me a seat." The auditorium was packed. Gabriel was in the second act, dressed as a tree. Raya clapped the loudest. Afterward, in the hallway, Gabriel hugged her without hesitation. "You came?" "Of course I did," she said, kneeling to his level. "You were the best tree I've ever seen." Ryan watched them, the warmth in his son's face, the way Raya knelt in heels just to meet his eyes. Something inside him unraveled. Later, walking her to her car, he ran a hand through his hair. You don't belong in this world. I'm not sure I belong in mine either. You're not scared to get your hands dirty, I'll give you that. She looked at him. I'm not scared of much, but I am scared of losing people I care about. There it was, clear, simple, said without flinching. Ryan stepped back, suddenly unsure. You care about me? I care about both of you, he frowned. You barely know me. She didn't blink. People don't always need years to recognize someone worth fighting for. He didn't answer, he couldn't. But when she reached for his hand, he didn't pull away either. That night, after Gabriel was asleep, Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. He didn't know what scared him more, that she was serious, or that he wanted her to be. Rain blurred the city skyline as Ryan stood under the awning of the youth center, arms crossed, watching the downpour soak the sidewalk. Across the street, cars hissed past, their headlights smeared like brushstrokes across wet glass. He hadn't planned on staying late, but he hadn't planned on feeling like this either. Behind him, the door opened. I thought you might have left already, Raya said, stepping inside and shaking water from her coat. She carried a paper bag in one hand. I was going to, Ryan said, but Gabriel fell asleep in the reading corner, didn't have the heart to wake him yet. She handed him the bag. Hot soup. From that place you said you liked, I figured you hadn't eaten. He looked at it, then at her. You remembered that. I listen, she said simply, walking further into the room. It's one of the few things I'm good at. He set the bag down carefully. You're good at more than that. Raya glanced toward the corner where Gabriel lay curled up beneath a donated blanket, a picture book still open in his arms. He's peaceful when he sleeps. He worries when he's awake, Ryan said. He doesn't say much, but I can tell. What's he worried about? That I'll mess this up, Ryan admitted, or that you'll disappear, Raya turned back to him. Would you want me to stay? He met her gaze, steady this time. I'm not used to having someone show up for me. Not like this. I don't do halfway, she said. If I'm in, I'm in. He rubbed the back of his neck, voice low. It scares me how fast this is moving. It scares me how much I want it to, she replied. The silence between them stretched, not awkward but charged. Finally, she walked to the window, tracing a line through the fogged glass. My mother used to say love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who makes you braver. Ryan leaned against the wall. And you think I'm brave? I think you're exhausted, she said. But you keep showing up anyway. That's its own kind of courage. He looked at her, really looked. The way the lamplight caught in the strands of her damp hair, the calm certainty in her voice. She wasn't asking for anything. She was offering. I don't have anything to give you, he said quietly. You've already given me something, she said, not looking away. A reason to stop pretending I'm happy with the life I built. They stood like that for a moment, framed by the quiet hum of rain and the soft rhythm of Gabriel's breathing. Then Ryan walked over to the bag of soup, opened it, and handed her a spoon. Then sit, eat with me. She smiled gently and joined him on the floor, cross-legged beside him. They didn't talk much as they ate, letting the quiet fill in the spaces where words couldn't reach. Afterward, Raya pulled out a folded envelope from her coat pocket. What's that? Ryan asked, still chewing. Something I've been working on, she said. The center's opening ceremony is next month. I want you to speak. Ryan nearly choked. Me? No, no way. You've done the work. You brought it to life. You're the reason it'll open on time. People should hear that. I'm not the type that gives speeches. Then talk about what this place means to you. He shook his head, but didn't hand the envelope back. You really think I can do that? I think you've done harder things. He exhaled slowly. I'll think about it. Good, she said, standing. Because I already told the press you'd be there. His eyes widened. You didn't. I did, she said, buttoning her coat. But I also told them you might chicken out. He gave a short laugh, one full of disbelief. You're something else. And yet, she said, smiling as she opened the door, you haven't told me to go away. He hesitated. You want the truth, she nodded, serious now. I don't want you to go anywhere. She nodded once, then stepped into the rain. This time he watched her walk away without doubt clawing at his chest. Later that night, as he carried Gabriel up the stairs to their apartment, Ryan paused just before opening the door. The hallway light flickered, casting long shadows, but he wasn't focused on that. He was thinking about what Raya said about bravery. He looked down at Gabriel, sleeping against his shoulder, and whispered, I think we're getting close, buddy. Inside, he laid Gabriel down gently and covered him with the worn quilt his grandmother had made years ago. Then he pulled out the envelope again, unfolded the paper, and read what Raya had written at the top. You don't need perfect words, just your truth. He sat at the small kitchen table, pen in hand, and began to write. Outside, the rain finally stopped. The morning of the youth center's grand opening broke with crisp sunlight stretching across the city. The cracked sidewalks had been repaired, the faded bricks painted over in bold, welcoming colors. The transformation was complete, and yet, Ryan Langston stood frozen in the staff room, staring at his reflection in a mirror hung crookedly above the sink. He straightened his collar for the third time, brushing invisible lint from the sleeves of the new shirt Raya had given him. Not expensive, just clean, crisp, and fitted. She'd handed it to him 2 nights ago without a word, as if she knew he wouldn't accept anything more. Behind him, Gabriel leaned against the counter, legs swinging beneath him. You look like a principal, Gabriel said through a grin. Ryan chuckled softly. I feel like a fraud. You're not, Gabriel said, tugging at his sleeve. You built this place. Miss Raya said so. Ryan turned and crouched down. You ready to sit with the volunteers while I talk? Gabriel nodded. Can I wave at you? Only if I get nervous, Ryan said, tapping his nose. A knock on the door interrupted them. Raya stepped in, dressed in a pantsuit the color of ash and silver, understated but sharp. Her hair was pulled back, a small pin with a blue horizon etched into it at her lapel. Everything's starting, she said, her voice lighter than usual. You okay? Ryan stood slowly. Ask me again in 10 minutes. She looked past him at Gabriel. You've got the best seat in the house, you know. I know, Gabriel replied proudly. Dad's gonna be great. Raya held Ryan's gaze for a second longer. You ready? No, he said, but I'm going anyway. The press had gathered outside, along with a few city officials, donors, and families from the neighborhood. A small stage had been set up under a white canopy, with folding chairs arranged in neat rows. Ryan had never stood behind a podium before. He'd never even attended a ribbon cutting. But when Raya introduced him, the man who didn't just help build this place, but gave it a beating heart, he stepped up without hesitation. He didn't use the speech he'd written. He looked out at the crowd, caught Gabriel's small wave in the third row, and just spoke. I've spent a long time feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, he began. My son and I have seen our share of hard days, but this building, it gave us more than a job or a roof. It gave us a reason to believe that things could start again. That we could be part of something good. He paused, scanning the faces. You don't need to have all the answers to make a difference. You just need to show up, and keep showing up even when it's hard. Applause rose before he even stepped back. Gabriel jumped up and clapped until his cheeks turned red. After the ceremony, as the crowd filtered inside for the tour and refreshments, Ryan stood beside Raya near the entrance. She didn't speak right away. She just watched him, her eyes steady. You didn't use your notes, she said at last. Didn't need them, he replied. I just said what was true. I'm glad you did. They stood shoulder to shoulder, watching volunteers usher families through the glass doors. Music played softly inside, and the scent of fresh paint still lingered faintly beneath the catered food. You really meant it, huh? He asked. That you didn't want to do halfway anymore, she turned to him. I meant every word, Ryan hesitated. I've been thinking about something. Yeah, I want to build more places like this, not just for Gabriel, for other kids, other families. I can't do it alone and I don't have much, but I've got skills, and time, and the will. Raya's expression shifted, surprise first, then something warmer. I've been waiting for you to say that. I don't want to just be the guy who held the door, he said. I want to be the guy who opens it for someone else. She smiled softly. Then let's start something together. They stepped further inside, passing through the new entrance as children played with donated instruments and parents spoke with counselors. The building buzzed with energy, the kind that only comes from fresh beginnings. Later that evening, the crowd thinned. Gabriel had fallen asleep on a beanbag with a picture book still open on his chest. Ryan stood at the back window, watching the sun cast golden light across the floor. Raya joined him quietly. I'm not afraid anymore, Ryan said. Of what? Letting someone in. She didn't speak, just slipped her hand into his. He closed his fingers around hers without hesitation. "You changed everything," he said. "You changed me first," she replied. He turned to face her. "Come home with us tonight." A flicker of surprise crossed her face, but she didn't hesitate. "I'd love to, and tomorrow, we plan the next center," she said. "Together." Outside, the city pulsed with life, but inside that building, inside that moment, it was calm, full of promise. Not a fairy tale, not a rescue. Just two people who met by chance, changed by kindness, and brave enough to start over, together. The apartment felt too small for the moment. Gabriel was curled up on the couch, building a tower from mismatched Lego, while Ryan stood at the kitchen counter drying his hands. Raya leaned against the doorway, watching the two of them like she was memorizing something. "You ever think about leaving this place?" she asked. Ryan glanced back over his shoulder. "You mean the apartment?" "I mean the city." He set the towel down. "All the time, but I don't run easy, not anymore." She stepped closer, arms crossed loosely. "I've been thinking about a property near the coast. Old rec center, needs everything. But it's got potential." He turned to face her fully. "You want to do it again, build another one." "I want to do it with you," she said. "Not just the building, all of it." Ryan's brow furrowed slightly. "With Gabriel, of course with Gabriel, he's part of you." "That means he's part of me now too." He searched her expression. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." He exhaled slowly like the air had been trapped inside him for too long. "I don't have savings or a clean record. Hell, I've barely figured out how to be steady." "You're steady enough for us," she said. "And I've got enough to cover what you don't, but it's not about money anymore. It's about building something that matters with someone who does." Gabriel looked up then, holding out his hand. "Miss Raya, can you help me find the blue piece?" Raya crouched next to him, sorting through the pile without hesitation. Ryan watched them, something deep in his chest settling into place. They moved into a 3-bedroom house a few blocks from the ocean 2 months later. The rec center sat just down the road, surrounded by broken fencing and overgrown grass, but Ryan saw what she saw. High ceilings, wide windows, and a big field out back waiting for laughter. Gabriel started at a nearby school, where he made friends on the first day, and came home with paint on his hands and stories about a science teacher who kept frogs in jars. Ryan enrolled in a business management night course, Raya's idea, and found he didn't hate studying as much as he expected. One early evening, while Gabriel played soccer in the backyard with 2 neighborhood kids, Ryan walked into the kitchen where Raya was unpacking groceries. She was barefoot, humming under her breath, the refrigerator door propped open with her hip. "Marry me," he said. She froze, one hand wrapped around a carton of strawberries. "You're not serious." "I am," he said, stepping closer. "I don't have a ring yet or a plan, but I've got my whole heart and I'm tired of waiting." She looked at him, eyes wide. "You want to get married in a kitchen? I want to marry you wherever you'll have me." She didn't hesitate. "Then yes." They got married 6 weeks later on the beach just behind the new rec center, still under renovation but already full of life. Gabriel stood beside them in a button-up shirt and sand-covered sneakers, grinning like he knew something the rest of the world hadn't caught up to yet. There were no tuxedos, no champagne towers, no press. Just close friends, local families, and a string of fairy lights that flickered against the twilight. Ryan had spent the morning fixing a broken railing on the deck. Raya had baked 3 of the cakes herself because she didn't trust anyone else to follow her grandmother's recipe. When they exchanged vows, Ryan didn't read anything from a card. "I didn't know what love looked like," he said, voice steady, "until someone held a door open and taught me to look again." Raya's voice was quieter but no less certain. "You gave me a life I didn't know I needed. And every day with you feels like the start of something worth keeping." After the ceremony, they danced barefoot in the sand while Gabriel balanced a cupcake on his head and declared himself the official ring guarder of the universe. The waves echoed behind them, and the stars blinked overhead like they had been waiting for this exact night. They didn't take a honeymoon. They didn't need one. The next day, they tore down the rest of the old fencing behind the center, side by side, while Gabriel painted a mural on the back wall with his new friends. Raya donated the land next to the building to the city for a community garden. Ryan taught after-school carpentry twice a week, and in the evenings they cooked dinner together, always something simple, always something shared. One afternoon, a reporter showed up, asking for a quote about the center's transformation. Ryan just said, "We built it with love." That's the only blueprint that mattered. Years passed, and the building stayed open. They added a library, an art studio, and a small cafe where teens could work part-time. Gabriel grew taller, louder, more curious. Every night, he said goodnight to both of them with the same words, "Best team ever." Ryan and Raya never stopped holding hands when they walked, even when no one was looking. He still brought her coffee in the morning. She still left notes in his toolbox. Sometimes love doesn't begin with roses or grand entrances. Sometimes it begins with a chocolate muffin, a quiet promise, and the courage to build something that lasts. And theirs did. Completely, beautifully, forever.